What's up with the world? It's your boy Sleep-E-J. You're tuned into the Know It All Sports Podcast. I'm Sleep-E-J, and that
I'm the
is...
man, the myth, the legend. They call me Psycho V. You can call me Rudy. You can call me Priest. You can call me Coach. Either way. Twitter handle is RudyV1982.
All right, so with that out the way, Coach Rudy and me, Sleepy-J, the know-it-alls, we are going to talk to you about some nonsense in sports because we know it all.
Now, if you think that you hear like a washer and dryer in the background, you're hearing things and you need to go to the doctor to get it checked.
And it's not a body that's just lumping around in the background either.
No, it might be two sumo wrestlers, but I'm not going to confirm nor deny that.
And you should get your hearing checked.
I totally agree, yeah. If you're hearing stuff in the background, it's not really there.
Yeah.
You got problems.
That's the problem when you're running the studio out of your house and you got to get things done in a timely manner. I do want to address that we have not set an actual schedule to like when we're releasing these. So we're kind of shooting by our hip right now and recording these and releasing them. So just stay subscribed and continue to listen, and you'll find out when we have a new episode.
When we post that we got a new episode, we're really trying to make sure that we do it once a week, but we haven't set in stone which day.
Right.
Schedules are kind of in flux right now, so just bear with us. But it's all right because it lets us come up with new topics for the sports segments.
Especially with the sports constantly something going on right now. Hopefully they continue to go on. Hopefully COVID doesn't put us back on a standstill.
Don't worry, it will. But so let's get started with the Olympics. I mean,
Okay.
right now there's a couple of things that are really standing out to me. Obviously, I think the main one I want to hit at, or the first one I want to hit at, is Simone Biles.
Okay, what about her?
She is probably not going to end up competing for gold or for medals in any of the competitions right now.
Right.
She released a video. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. I just saw it probably about an hour ago.
I heard about it.
Her
I didn't see it.
practicing and just landed on her back.
Yeah. She did. I did hear her say something about like it's very scary about like being in the air and not knowing where you're landing or how you're gonna land, and that was the big reason why she had chose to not compete in her.
So,
but I do want to. I don't know if anyone else knows this, and I just found this out personally. So that because a lot of her tricks and things that she does are so dangerous that apparently they don't even necessarily give her the best scores because they don't want other people to do these patented
look,
things.
I think honestly that's BS. She does get screwed. She really does. She gets screwed out of it. I don't think it's because they're concerned with other people.
Right.
It's just a matter of, well, how can you judge something that no one else in the world can do?
Yeah.
But they use it against her rather than giving her credit for it.
Yeah, you should definitely get like, well, since no one else can do it, you can get a perfect score.
Yeah, you're an automatic 10 right there.
Or deem it a illegal move because no one else can do it. I mean, it would be stupid, but at least that would be more logical than saying like, no, we're going to give you less.
Messed up on the thing that no one else is capable of getting anywhere near.
Right.
It's ignorant.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. I, for one, found it a little disappointing that she did back out.
Yeah.
Disappointing because I wanted her to get gold. It had nothing to do with me. I wanted her to get gold for validation of how great she is. Because I think she's fantastic at that sport. I think she's by far the best player or best athlete in that given trade. So I wanted her to get validation. That said, I was not upset that she pulled out for America's sake or for the sanctity of the Olympics or competition or anything like that. When it comes to your mind and you being able to execute or not execute,
right.
The reason that golfers will go from being one of the top 3 golfers to, man, they're god awful, is because it's mental. There's a mental aspect to gamemanship. There's been a handful of pitchers who couldn't throw the ball to home plate anymore. They got it in their head, and all of a sudden their arm did not allow it. The ball would go way left, way right. You remember that kicker from the Colts that signed with the Cowboys? Mike Vanderjack, I think it was.
Yeah.
So for a good portion of his career, he was the best kicker of all time,
right?
Statistically speaking. He misses that field goal at the end of that could have sent them to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
The Colts versus I think it was the Patriots or something.
Okay.
He misses a field goal, and they lose the game.
Yeah.
Next year, the Cowboys sign him.
Right.
He sucks. He's missing field goals. Whether we're talking about kickers all of a sudden, no matter how great they were, missing, or we're talking about pitchers all of a sudden not being able to throw the ball where it went. Now, those sports are different in that me missing a field goal isn't going to lead to my death. Me throwing the ball wild isn't going to lead to my death. But when you're flipping like she is, that's life or death, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about, like, she's at a age.
Blasphemy.
She's at an age that she's, maybe she's thinking about her future. Maybe it's no longer about, like, right now, and it's starting to be, like, in the future, I want to have kids, and, if I get in a tragic injury, maybe I won't be able to have those kids. Or,
I mean, that's possible, but I don't even know if it's all that. I mean, you gotta,
no. I'm just saying,
you got to remember she was
when you're
molested.
talking when you're talking mental health, though, like those are the things that you don't know.
You got to remember she was molested. She was part of that group that was molested by that doctor all those years ago.
That's true too.
And the way stuff like that plays with somebody's mind and creates mental blockages and whatnot. There's no telling if it has any.
Keep in mind in general when you're talking professional sports, or sports in general, because if there's a crowd, there's a crowd. But some people, under the lights, they fold. And I'm not saying that that's what her case was. Whatever her case was, that was her own personal choice. I'm just saying, like, when you're looking at professional athletes, and boxing in particular, a lot of times until you've been under, like, the actual lights of the championship fight, a lot of times that's what the champions hold on to. Like, oh, you don't know the pressure until you have 80,000 screaming fans in a fucking arena that are either
and it's true
cheering for you to win or cheering for you to lose. Either way, like, that's a lot of pressure when you have, all these people that are betting millions of dollars on you. Like, that's the what you're holding on to. So when you're talking the Olympics, you're there to represent your country.
And she has nobody with her. She don't have her family there.
Right.
She don't have her mom. She don't have, because they made so many limitations of who all could go.
Right.
She doesn't have that calming voice with her.
Yeah.
They could call her, but that's not the same as having them literally in your corner just before you go do these flips.
Right. Or to, like, pick you up after you fucked up and you fucked up. So,
yeah. So
all that plays into effect is where where we're going with what we're saying.
I feel sad for her.
Right.
I don't care that. Look, I feel sad for her, and I was thinking for half a second, man, it really sucks for the other person who didn't come, who would have had a chance to get a medal. But at the same time, look, they couldn't beat her out. She deserved to go. She went. It is the same as if she would have rolled her ankle and all of a sudden can't compete, because that stuff happens too.
Well, I mean, we see it in other sports all the time. You see quarterback.
That's why you have alternates, right?
Yeah, you have the quarterback that took a big hit the season before, and they come back and like, look, I can't do it. Like, I can't get the ball off like I used to. I can't, scramble like I used to, because they're afraid of it. And it's a mental thing. It's not necessarily that they can't.
They may not consciously be afraid.
Yeah.
But subconsciously they are. Yeah. So, shout out to Simone Biles. Wish her the best, regardless if she ever does another flip professionally or not. I think most of the world recognizes her as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest.
I think she's put in the work she deserves her respect regardless of if she performed this time or not.
Yeah.
It wasn't. This wasn't her first one, right?
She won a few years back.
So, I mean, shit. You have nothing to prove. You know you can do it. You've done it before. If you know,
there's all these videos of you doing it. Your excellence is in the history books. Now let's move on just a little bit forward to the women's soccer team.
Okay.
Advanced in a overtime kickoff, 4-2. So they're I think one game away from playing for the gold.
Okay.
Look, honestly, I love the women's soccer team, national soccer team, because they win. I hate our men's soccer team because they lose. I don't tune in to watch the men ever.
Right.
If I know when the women are playing, I'm more likely to turn that on because you know what? I want to see a winner.
Is it just me, or does it seem like this time around there's a lot of focus on the women's sports in general?
Fortunately, it's just because the women are more dominant. Like
I know, but I'm just saying. Like I don't think I remember a time.
And I don't know that I should even say unfortunately. I should say it's awesome that it is. But yeah, there's never been because you had Michael Phelps
when you're
before.
Talking, when you're talking on the grand scheme of like. You want all of your teams to be doing well, the men and women, versus like, no, we're not watching our men because our men aren't doing well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got men, women, and are winning some of these golds and whatnot, but they don't have the name recognition that these women do.
Right. I just feel like it's very women oriented at this moment. I don't know if it's just.
And it's the same reason why I think that these women in these the national women's team needs to get paid at least what the men's gets paid, if not more. Because you know what? We tune in for them because they got a chance to win. The men's we tune into and know they're going to lose.
There's that's what a lot of argument has been. Like, oh, the men bring in the people to watch it, but if at this point we're seeing that it's the women, then I think maybe it's time for the role reversal of like, guess what, men, you're not getting paid as much because you're not putting the seats there.
I'm game for it. Because they're not putting the butts in the seats.
Yeah,
they're just not.
So maybe it's time that not equal pay. I'm putting quotes since you can't see me, but I'm putting quotes like no longer the equal pay. At least it's time for the women are getting paid more because they're doing the work. They're bringing the people in.
They're dominant. I mean, you look at the women's basketball team winning gold and kicking butt. Man, we got the NBA players losing 3 games, 2 that didn't count, and the first one that counted.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you what my problem with it is, Jay, and you can tell me how you feel. But my problem with it isn't that we lost and the rest of the world is catching up to us.
Right.
Because that's what a lot of people are saying. Well, don't be so hard on them. The rest of the world is getting better at basketball, because we know that to some extent that's true. You see Luka with the Mavericks. You see Giannis from Greece with Milwaukee. And you see all kinds of players throughout the NBA that are from all over the world.
Right.
But my problem is, when I think back to the Dream Team and to some of the even the second Dream Team and some of these other championship gold medal winning teams for us,
right?
You had players that played defense and had a pride for it, right. And they played offense. You didn't just play one or the other. You played, 40 minutes of basketball if you needed to, and you were blowing teams out. And it wasn't just because offensively I'm skilled,
right,
or defensively I'm skilled. You had at least 3 players on the court at all times that were both ways, offense and defense, studs.
Right. And
now you got none of our players that are that way. you're either an offensive stud or a defensive stud.
Right.
That's on the team. You have players in the NBA that
They're
go
just
both ways.
one way, yeah.
But the ones that are on the team, you're one or the other. So for me, that's what I don't like. I'm like, we're getting beat because we don't have players with the heart. Because look,
Yeah.
defense is a heart thing.
I
Effort
think
thing.
I think for me, I'm with you as far as for like, especially when the stakes are so high. When when you were playing in your parking lots as a child, you went really hard in those moments, and then to get yourself to elite level, and then you're just like, yeah, I know I'm a one way person where this is where my strength is. Which there's nothing wrong with leaning into your strengths, but there's also something to say like, if you really want to win, you're gonna go above and beyond to try and get there.
And look, some guys can't do both. It sucks, but don't go on telling me that, hey, these guys are just as good as the guys from 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when they can't play
Are
both
they
ways.
though?
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
You don't play both ways.
Well,
you don't even try to play both ways.
There's the argument that you hear with like, oh, obviously whoever's the player of the times, the LeBron James versus the old school,
The Jordan, the Kobe, whatever.
Dr.
J.
Yeah, all of them. You'll be like, oh, but could he have done this? And like the fact of the matter is, one, rules change along the way. Like certain things you could do, you couldn't do now. Even when you're talking boxing, you talk about like, oh, could Tyson have beaten Ali? And maybe if you, depending on the rules of their time that you've put them in, sure, one wins over the other. But it's so hard to match them up in an actual, like, because they grew up against different rules and different times. So it's really hard to go with that. I do want to mention before we get too much further, just because we're talking Olympics and things like that, do you think we'll ever see a time, since we do hear so much about player equality and things of that nature, and we're always striving to better as a society, you think we'll ever have like actual co-ed sports?
Yeah, I was actually just telling my wife about it a couple days ago. So, the best woman basketball player that I've ever seen is Cheryl Miller. So, if you can recall who Reggie Miller is, Cheryl was his sister. Okay. Cheryl dominated. Okay. But I would consider her the best player of all time, woman player. There have been many greats after her, but I personally lean towards her. Right.
Who was the one? Was it Leslie?
Yeah.
I liked her.
But I say that to say, Cheryl, people thought, maybe she is tough enough to play in the NBA against men. And you know what? She was tough.
Right.
But there's a big difference. In the 80s, when she was playing, you needed to be tough because they were mean to each other. They knocked you down. They knocked out teeth. Today's NBA is soft.
Yeah.
So, I think you're a few years away from a sharpshooting woman being in the NBA. Because
I know
realistically,
there's a couple professional teams right now that they're not NBA, but there's a few leagues that are out here that they are looking to, like, they have co-ed teams. And I like the idea. It sounds good. I don't know.
Look, today you have so many soft players because all they do is stand in one spot and shoot.
Yeah.
What's so hard about putting a woman out there if she can shoot?
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I know how men are from playing football. Whenever you heard that there was they have a defensive line girl code or girl player, or maybe she
taking
was
cheap shots at.
Yeah, you were harder. Like I wasn't, because I had my position that I had to play. I wasn't a person that got off on that stuff. But I remember we did have a girl on our line. And I would hear the other teams like, oh, there's a girl on the line, and they would try and come for her. And the same thing would happen, like, oh, this girl, she's a cornerback, and she's trying to cover, our wide receivers or whatever. And they got a kick out of blowing her out, which the idea is, yes, if I'm better than you, I'm going to expose you. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. But whenever they're like, I'm going to let her catch the ball so I can light her up type shit, I was like, it's fucking corny and stupid. And so I don't know. I am a firm believer, like, if you think you can handle playing it and you know, like, you're going to be male dominated, or if you're going to be a male and know, like, oh, this team's got more women than men and you're going to possibly get lit up by some women, are you going to be okay with it? I think that's the problem. I think it's actually what boils down to is men's ego.
I'm going to say it like this. Honestly, if Kobe had not died, we'd be 2 years away from it.
You think so?
Kobe was huge into the WNBA.
Yeah, he
loved
for
the
his daughter,
WNBA.
Yeah.
He loved women's basketball.
Yeah.
He was a big advocate for it. If he had been alive today, I think he would start advocating for women's basketball.
I think like 3 or 4 years ago, Master P and a bunch of rappers were starting their own major league basketball. Well, not major league, but they were starting their own NFL.
Trying to get a pro,
they
pro
were
team. So, but I think that had Kobe been alive today, he would have started his commentary on how some of these girls might be able to play, and I think that would take someone at his level, to make people believe, you know what, these girls can shoot as well. And look, I'm not saying every girl can.
Right.
I'm saying we're just a few years away from getting that special shooter,
that one person
who can be that, 3-point specialist on an NBA team.
I'm here for it. I want to see it. Like
Me too.
I hope
it happens.
I hope in my lifetime that I can be like, man, we've come a long way to where we're actually seeing, whether it's baseball, football, wherever, and maybe football might be the first one to get there. And I only say maybe because we're starting to get women coaches in the football.
We're starting to get them in the NBA too.
Yeah, well, NBA I can see it because we've had this discussion for the WNBA, and I would like to see that go too. But I would toss up between either one.
Now, speaking of the NBA, just a short part, the player movement. Right now, you got free agency, you got trades, you got Russell Westbrook getting sent to LA.
Yes.
Good move, bad move. What do you think?
So, with LeBron being there, I'm curious. Like I've been there for him to see him do it, and I kind of, because I know he's got a lot of haters. I kind of want to see him pull off another win in another city or whatever. Yeah, and
well, he did get a title out there.
Yeah, but I want to see him like a multiple.
Oh, get 2 out.
Yeah, because that one's kind of like it was during it wasn't like the actual
last year COVID thing.
Yeah, so I want to see like an actual season, and
you want to know what's funny, man? For a long time, I disliked Russ. I did, and I know people say he's got that kind of face, whatever. I disliked him, but the more and more we get away from him having been Kevin Durant's teammate, I appreciate Russ that much more. You break Oscar Robinson's record of triple doubles.
Right.
And I hear of all the charitable acts that he does and how good of a person he is off court.
Yeah.
I think, you know what? Russ is probably just a lot like me. Someone that people hate, but if you got to know him, you get a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
And I personally, over these years, am starting to get that respect for him. And I think he's gotten a bad rap.
Right. I think
he's cold. I think he's going to do good out there. I think he's going to be huge for them.
I don't know that, me, again, I'm not the strongest NBA watcher or whatever, but I would say it's a good fit for the team. So to see how they utilize it is where it's going to be like, you can put all the weapons on the team, but if you don't know how to work them to their best abilities, it does you no good to have the arsenal that you have.
I think he's going to be great for them. He can get rebounds. He can pass the ball well. And he will have the respect of LeBron.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. Because he does play both ways. He can't shoot threes, so he don't need to shoot threes.
I just found it interesting. I found it interesting just because I was just asking about last week about like super teams were done, and this is just another
addition to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, now let's get off the NBA and look for those of you who wanted to hear us talk about the draft. Um, I don't like it. Look, I watched it yesterday, and I don't really got much to say about it because in the NBA today, these guys who come from college rarely are that good the first year.
Right.
You gotta wait 2-3 years.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I don't
so
like
for
to.
me, I don't want to get excited about some guys who probably aren't going to do anything in the NBA this year. I
It's
don't care.
interesting. I think for me and you, just in general, rookies we're pretty much never really sold. Like a lot of people get excited because they had great years in their college years, and they expect to just be added to the professionals and do that. Whereas to me and you, we're like, I don't trust the rookie. For one reason or another, they don't handle the pressure because it's a different level of pressure that they're dealing with. Maybe it's they're not used to having the money, so they're kind of balling out. They're not necessarily focused on the game like they should be. Whatever the case is, it takes a year or two for them to like. Very few people enter in any professional league and just
And
are
ball out.
yeah, just are on top of their shit and been prepared for it. So um, typically that's why you won't hear us talk too much about drafts.
In any sport.
Right.
Like, we're just not those guys.
We pay attention to them and we might make notes like I'm kind of intrigued by this guy,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily like I'm like we're never going to be all in on any rookie. We're just going to be like,
Nah.
oh, we like the guy's potential, and we
Look,
want to see it unfold and see how it does well with the teams.
having coached some guys who are in college and who are currently in college and probably headed to professional sportsdom, I do have a vested interest in seeing some of these guys succeed for my own ego.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I care enough about the overall drafts to make notes on every player because a lot of them just piss me off.
Right.
Watch them like, yeah, y'all talk about this guy like he's good.
Right.
He ain't nothing. And you look at the numbers of how many guys get drafted and don't have careers. I don't want to waste, months doing research on guys that ain't going to pan out because they ain't got it up top. So, speaking of guys who ain't got it up top, Conor McGregor.
Yeah. What about him?
Conor McGregor. He ain't got it. He's not there
So
mentally anymore.
I think
He's not there physically anymore.
I think
take aside the break in his leg.
Yeah.
The notion that we were talking about off air was that Conor may be done.
Yeah. My feelings on Conor is that he drank too much of the Kool-Aid in the sense that he's seen how much money he made fighting Floyd and talking reckless. And the thing that people don't realize about Floyd and his trash talk is Floyd is very good at he can be the bad guy or the good guy. He was very versatile in that in the sense that if there was another guy that talked just as much trash as he did, he knew how to scale it back and kind of play, okay, I'm going to be the good guy. That I don't know why he's so angry and I don't know why he wants to talk to me this way. And he would play it up that way. But whenever he knew he had a boring fighter that necessarily didn't do a lot of talking, he would talk the most shit and he would turn it all the way up. And when him and McGregor had that fight, they were kind of even keel. But I think where most people, when you fight Floyd, you pick up fighting tips. Where McGregor picked up, he tried to take that personality, and he's lived beyond it. And if you guys aren't really or unsure why I'm picking on him so much in this aspect, am I back up? All right, sorry guys, there was something technical error in there, but I didn't say anything. I seen something happen on the screen that stopped me. But anyways, so why I'm picking on McGregor right now is the fact that he's just taking his trash talking too far, and he hasn't been winning enough to justify the trash talk that he's been doing lately. And even where he's going, he's actually taking it like further. Yeah, like when you start attacking like dead relatives, you're beyond entertainment at this point. And And I think that's
Now,
where he's going.
I'm going to tell you like this. We are not the most sensitive of people. If you talk to us off air, we say some very ignorant stuff.
True. Very, very
Joking,
true.
but still ignorant.
Right.
We hurt people's feelings all the time. Not on purpose, but also it's not like we're trying to behave ourselves.
Right.
So it's not like we're personally taking offense to what McGregor says, but there's an understanding in life that there's certain boundaries that you don't cross. Maybe you can say it to a man's face in a bar because you really want to fight him, but you don't take it public.
Right. Or even if you say it to a buddy in private because you're just being disrespectful, but it's still in private, you know, that's one thing. But you don't actually get on your social media, publicize it, especially when you have the pedestal that he has to amplify his his platform as amplified versus someone that has 200 followers and just, so that's why I say that. But he the real reason is I think the last 7 or 8 fights he's lost most of those.
He's got one win out of his last 7 fights or some stupid number like that.
Yeah.
He's
fought Floyd, he's literally lost majority of his fights.
We hit on it last week where his footwork is sloppy, his
hunger, his training, he's just so much of what he does is more about being seen and heard more so than actually winning. And one thing for me.
Hold on. And if anybody wants to jump on here and say, "Well, neither of you could beat," I'm gonna tell you right now. You can put any amount of money on a one-on-one fight. I'm saying without rules. Put a one-on-one fight. And there are very few people that I'm going to take over my man Jay right there.
Right.
And me, regardless if I'm going to win or not, I'll take anybody. I don't care. Right. I ain't trying to go to jail. but yes. We ain't afraid of Conor McGregor. But we're also not trying to call him out. We're not trying to get into his sport.
What we're just pointing out is the trash talk. If you don't know anything about us, you know that we're fans of winners, and if you're cocky and winning, we're even fans of that for the most part. Even
I have no problem with it.
In a lot of ways, we feel like shit. The more you're winning, the more you're justified to act. The more ignorant you are.
That's why I love Muhammad Ali.
Right. Or even Tyson. Tyson said some very There's even a line
they
that
can back it up.
Yeah. Tyson literally said that he was gonna make a man turn around and say he loved him while he fucked him.
Oh yeah, I remember when he did that.
And
he said that.
When most people didn't even they were just man, he's crazy. But when you really think about what he said he was gonna fuck you and tell you you were gonna make him say you were just wow, that's a confident person, because most people would be pissed you're gonna do what, and you'd go in there all out, and Tyson still kicked that guy's ass and he never said shit about it.
Yeah, so don't get it twisted when we're talking about an MMA fighter. Don't start thinking, oh, you're just 2 fat guys that can't do nothing. First off, yes, we're fat. Second off, that ain't gonna stop us from hurting anybody. But we ain't trying to. That was a long time ago, many years ago. That said, we're not the ones.
Right. So, but anyways, that's where we are with him. Next topic.
All right. Now, this topic I want to call FS or BS. All FS right. For show, BS, well, we all know what BS is. Bull spit to keep it clean. But, all right, so if you agree with the comment, say for show.
Okay.
If you don't, tell me it's BS, and either way, tell me why.
Defend it.
Yeah, so I'll start off with a couple of these. These are all NFL related. So, a couple of softballs. First off, Zeke will be better this year than last year.
Zeke will be better this year versus last year. I'm going to say for sure. He's got more people to relieve a lot of the pressure for him to open him up. Um, but that's assuming that they want to give him the ball more. I don't like that they got a solid backup that they like. I mean, I like a solid backup, but I don't like they like to lean on the backup as much as they do.
Look. I like the offensive line. I think they're healthy, so I think that's gonna be a major help for him.
Yeah,
I doubt that he's gonna be dropping the ball like he did last year, so I don't think that he can help but have a better season. I
right.
still think he's a damn good back. I still think he's top 5 in the NFL, but I'm with you. I say for sure. So next one, Greg Knapp, um, the coach that died from the Jets. Um, that'll be a rally cry for the Jets. His death will be a rally cry for the Jets.
For the Jets, I'm kind of like I don't think that it's necessarily going to be a rally cry. So I'm gonna call BS on it. I don't think that it's gonna um, affect them one way or the other, just because I don't necessarily know what his role was as far as for like, was it a major part? I mean, assistant coach, I would stand to believe that it's a big enough part that it affects the team, uh, but I don't know how interchangeable. Like, was he your offensive coordinator and your assistant coach, or was he just a pick up the slack where I'm falling off at and I can't handle it right now? That's really where my concern is. I am curious to see if it does affect him. I mean, for all I know, maybe he was just as important as the head coach to them, and it does affect them to the point of like, oh yeah, they're not really going to do so well because they're battling this big loss for them.
Um, for me, I will say that it's also BS. And it's gonna be for this reason. Um,
Prayers and positive energy
I
to his
don't
family, by the way. Like
look
that's a
look.
horrible thing.
Yeah, it is a tragic thing. I think though that when you look at pro sports,
Yeah,
you have so many coaches, you have
that's
so
the
many players. There's not hardly ever any coach that touches every player.
right.
I think one of the rare exceptions was way back in the 90s when you had Coach Joe Avazano,
Yeah,
the special teams coach that every player loved.
right.
Starters, backups, everybody knew him and loved him.
Yeah,
Outside of that, you have so many pockets that I don't think that
they get that one on
his
one. Yeah,
his death is going to be as significant. And then when I add on to um, the idea that you have a head coach of a football team um, in Ron Rivera,
right,
who coach of the Washington football team, who had cancer
right.
and is now upset that his players won't get the COVID shot when he's susceptible to getting COVID.
Right.
So if you don't have a head coach
Right.
that can get the team to support him and something like that, I don't know that your quarterback's coach, assistant coach
Right.
in New York will be able to make everybody, with as tragic as it is,
Right. Right.
rally behind his death
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
to take it to another level.
The only way I see that really affecting a team is if the coach was like slated to like be a successor, because your head coach is like on the way, 1 foot
In
out.
that type of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rick Dennison leaving Minnesota will lead to other coaches quitting because of their desire not to get the vaccine.
Okay.
FS or BS?
I think it will, but I'm not necessarily against it either. I think it'll possibly better, younger coaches opportunities to come in and fill in those positions. I recently was listening to somebody talk about like the wage gaps in job positions, and they say how um, it's not necessarily this you're underpaid for doing a position, because everybody is taking the job still at that low pay position. And if you're not going to stand out and go for what you believe is to be more, it's going to stay low like that. So in that situation, you have a coach that doesn't want to coach because of the circumstances on their belief of I don't want to take this shot or I do want to take the shot and no one else wants to do it. Then you leave yourself open to losing a very well paying job and allowing someone else to step up and take that position.
I'm gonna put it like this: I got the vaccine. I'm just putting it out there. I got the vaccine, and I believe you should get the vaccine. That said, if you have something that you believe in, and that is being challenged at work, I support your decision to leave. Because I've left plenty of jobs for that reason.
Yeah.
I fully believe in X and you are doing Y. So you know what? It's better for me to be gone.
Right.
Than stand there and deal with the Y that you're trying to make me deal with.
It's very much your current employment situation now, right?
It's exactly what my current employment situation is now. I left because I was unhappy with what was going on.
Right.
And, regardless of what somebody else might think, oh, you're blowing a chance, whatever. Look, we all have to make those decisions.
Right.
I'm not going to criticize him for it. I also think that there will be a handful of others. I'm not going to say, oh, half the coaches are going to be quitting. But I do think that him doing it is going to make some other guys say, what?
I could see 5 coaches this year.
So something like that. Literally a handful of guys saying, nah, you ain't making me do this. So I can I can see it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they should or shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be mad at them for it.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly.
I'm that same kind of guy.
I wholeheartedly
on my
see
own personal stances.
I see 2 to 5. Maybe 6 on the high end, but it's 2 to 5 is what I think you'll see that'll walk away.
And you know what? It might just carry over to other leagues too. Other guys, other coaches decide to do the same. All right. So now to the topics that are gonna make you guys say, "Why didn't y'all lead with that?" FS or BS? Josh Allen will regress this season.
I think that's for sure. Like, I've never been all in on him. But I think he's a good enough quarterback. I don't think that he has enough of the talent that he needs to be better. But also, I don't think his skill level is necessarily better either to bring up somebody to be better, if that makes sense.
And for me, I say for sure. I really think he'll regress this season too. And I know a lot of you guys are automatically rolling your eyes because the league fell in love with him last year. A lot of people said, "Oh my gosh, Josh Allen is the real deal," and he could be. He realistically could be the real deal, but I don't buy Buffalo this year.
Yeah,
I think that they're due for a slight regression. That doesn't mean I think that he's going to be garbage. It means that I don't think that he's going to have as good of a season as he had last year. And if he does, good for him.
I think for me, and I've said this mostly because I'm a Cowboys fan and I'm not a Buffalo fan, I do think that Buffalo is going to fall. They're going to, if they make it to the playoffs, they're going to scrape in on a wild card. I don't think they're going to, historically speaking, they just don't have back-to-back seasons except for the early 90s where they did that. Sorry about that.
All right. FS or BS? Tom Brady is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL today.
I'm going to say for sure, he's still...
Wow. You say he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL today.
Still, yeah.
I know they won the Super Bowl, but I'm going to list off some names just because I didn't expect that. You got Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
You got Russell Wilson. You got Aaron Rodgers. You got Dak Prescott, whether you like him or not. You got Josh Allen. A lot of people throwing him up there. You got what's his name? Shoot.
He's obviously not there if you can't remember his name.
I'm old. That's a whole other story. No, the Detroit quarterback that went to
Stafford,
Matt Stafford.
So, just out of the names that you listed, I would honestly
just put 3 of them.
You're not giving him much competition in the fact. Like, here's why I say this. Like, everyone likes to say that the internet is undefeated, but Tom Brady defeated the internet. Like, everyone forgets the Falcons game when he was down, and everyone was like, "Oh, Tom Brady, he's the greatest," but he's down 3 points to the 20 points that the Falcons had that won Super Bowl. Then he comes back and fucking wins. And then he switches up a whole ass other team, no longer has the same coach, everything, and wins another Super Bowl. I like the flair in that. I don't necessarily like I'm not talking about his arm strength. I'm not talking about anything other than the fact that he finds a way to lead his team regardless. And out of the players that you listed, like Patrick Mahomes, you're right. He's what I would say he's in that top 5. Dak Prescott, we could argue whether or not he's justifiably in there. But I wouldn't put Russell Westbrook in there. He's top 10.
Wilson.
Or Wilson, yeah. I wouldn't put him in there. I would put him in the top 10. I wouldn't put him in the top 5.
All right.
Josh Allen, again, top 10. I wouldn't put him in the top 5.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers, I'm not going to argue. Like, okay, Aaron Rodgers is... And people would argue with that, too, because he's only got 1 Super Bowl. Like, how is he so great?
I'm talking about, like, for one season right now,
yeah.
who are the top guys. And I'm not talking about all time with it, because I think you when you're talking about all time...
Even still, I think he's still
different.
He's going to be productive. Like, I don't think you can count him out.
But that's the problem. I think he's a good quarterback right now. I don't think he's a great quarterback.
Okay.
And that's why when I'm talking about top 5... I'm talking about who do I think is great right now. And personally,
if you're talking wins, I was to say, if you're talking wins, or are you talking stats?
Stats.
Okay, stats wise, okay, I'd have to call that BS because I don't think that you're gonna see him hit on all time. Like his competition is too stiff. You have too many good quarterbacks. You have your Patrick Mahomes that are in there. Dak Prescott, as we had on off the air, we did talk about how he still only played a partial season and was going to
third of the season, and he had damn near 2,000 yards.
Yeah, he was on pace to probably set a record had he not gotten injured. So, if you're going stats for player, all right, I'd have to drop him down in the top 10. I wouldn't put him in the top. He might even drop down into the top 15. If I'm being objective, just because there are so many good quarterbacks with good receivers that are on their team that are going to help them. So, and we're not going off of team record of winning or whatever. We're talking purely is your quarterback keeping a play alive? Is he throwing the ball and connecting with his players?
Put him on an average team. How's he going to do type stuff? Right. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at, is he smart? Is he know stuff?
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of his games last year, and he just didn't look really good. Because of that, I can't say he's a top-tier quarterback anymore, but that doesn't mean that he's not a championship caliber quarterback.
Yeah.
And good enough. Look, Peyton Manning's last year, he wins the Super Bowl. He sucked.
Yeah.
But he was still smart enough to know what he needed to do to get you enough to get that dub.
Right.
And because of stuff like that, just because you're old and no longer great doesn't mean that you can't still succeed. And that's what I think about Tom Brady. I don't put him in the top 5 anymore, but Um,
My problem with Brady in general is I feel like you almost have to piss him off for him
to
to
get the
turn.
best out of him.
Yeah, for him to show up. Like he has to have gotten sacked 4 or 5 times before he actually says, "Okay, fuck you guys," and then he starts playing ball. Otherwise, you see very close calls out of him, especially in the latter years.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. You still got Derek Carr. Some people like Drew Lock. Um, I mean, I think that there's a lot of good quarterbacks right now.
Yeah,
Maybe if you're saying you put Brady up there because the other guys are just good, and you no longer have the Breezes and the Peyton Mannings, and
yeah,
and you don't have Roethlisberger as a elite anymore, or the
right.
Romos. So if you're gonna say that, I can see where others would still stick Brady up there, but
People aren't gonna erase the fact that he's got the rings that he
yeah.
has, and they're just not gonna admit that that's their biggest bias.
All right, so the other one, Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL today. I'm not even saying top 5. I'm saying top 10. FS or
That
BS?
that's a for show statement. Like I don't necessarily like it, but again, going off of the stats for the
Because those of you
partial,
that don't know, Jay, he's not a big Dak Prescott fan. He's a Cowboy fan, but he's never been a big Dak Prescott. So him saying that they're top 10 or that he's top 10
yeah,
is not a given.
yeah. The thing is, his work ethic was questionable in the past. That made me not necessarily. And when everyone was sold on him his rookie year, I personally seen chinks in the wins that people were excited about. People were excited about, oh, he beat Green Bay, but they didn't beat a healthy Green Bay. They beat a beat up, injured Green Bay. So I didn't go into the playoffs thinking like, oh, we beat them one time, we could do it again. I already realistically felt like, no, this is a different team, and it's going to be a lot harder to beat than it was in the season. And going through the motions of him today, um, I will accept that he is a top 10 quarterback because there's so many newer, younger quarterbacks. A lot of the
All-time greats have gone.
yeah, we're starting to approach the who's the ones that have been in the league and that are like vets that are reliable. You have Russell, you have Tom Brady, you have
Patrick.
uh Patrick's still young though. Like I'm talking
Oh, veterans?
yeah, the
Yeah.
old school ones
You
that
got
you've had.
Roethlisberger, you got
But see, I wouldn't even necessarily put him in like I'm talking about. But yeah, you have Roethlisberger who's still that people would go with. But even
still people would gamble with him.
yeah, there's one that's Aaron Rodgers. Like those are the ones that I would say like this is who your competition is, and they're gonna be hard competitors no matter what team they're on, whether it's the team they've been with for all these years, or they get traded to a new team, or they decided to not play this year and wait till they get another team. But
Yeah,
I mean,
there's been a major changing of the guard.
yeah,
Because you lost Peyton, you lost his brother, you lost Tony, you
yeah.
lost
Um,
what was his name? San Diego's quarterback went to the Colts.
that's what I was just thinking about. Or even the one that quit last year after the like mid season. It was I don't even think it was through the preseason. He was like, yeah, I'm done for the Colts.
Luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
A lot of those guys who
are
had held down the fort for so long,
right.
and were Hall of Fame caliber and stuff,
Or
are gone.
Your all-star competitors, yeah. So there's enough. I mean, he's better than Kyler Murray. Not to say that Kyler Murray doesn't have an opportunity to step up and make a better name for himself, but we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, he's
The top 10 isn't as
competitive. It's not as hard as to become.
it's not as locked down as what it used to be.
Yeah.
Because for a good part of this 2000s,
Yeah.
you did have some staples in there.
Yeah, you had these players that were dangerous you can't count them out to that clock
Drew
strike
Brees,
zero. Yeah.
Peyton Manning, Tom
Romo,
Brady,
right?
The Romos, the Aaron Rodgers, or before him,
All
the
of them right
Favres.
now. If you were to
You
put
look
them
at all
on
those
any
guys,
team, yeah,
and you're like, well, yeah, this guy is head and toes above
right.
the rest of the league.
And
But right now,
it
you
goes
only
against
have, like you said, you have Pat,
right.
you have Russell Wilson, and you're not even sold on him.
Yeah.
But you have Russell who won a championship, Pat that won a championship.
Right.
Then the rest of them are Nick Foles, who doesn't count because he's a backup.
Right.
I don't care if he's starting; he's a backup.
Yeah.
You have those 3 championships. Then you have 2 with Pittsburgh's quarterback.
Right.
And then you have 7 with Brady and nobody else.
Right.
So before that, you had those other guys.
Right.
So,
or that were strong playoff competitors.
Yeah.
Like they were like the Blues. Like you might make it. You're gonna see them in the playoffs. Like they're not gonna necessarily go there, but you're gonna have to beat them to go to that next level.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of at least that stiff competition was.
I obviously say it's for show. I think that Dak is definitely a top 10. Now I know that some questions are going to be because of his health. You know, he recently had another injury at practice, throwing injury. But I don't expect that to hold him out. Look, if you find out that he's going to miss a third of the season because of it, then you know what? I'll start backing off of him. I'll say, you know what? He's injury prone now, and I can't have it. But I mean, he just got the contract. He's got 5 years with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That arm shoulder injury ain't got nothing to do with his leg that he hurt last year. So
I think
it's not going to be the same thing.
I think it's time for him to prove what he's tried to prove. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that he's got to get a Super Bowl.
He's in his prime now, so there's no more discussion of. Well, he's been in the league long enough to be in his prime.
Yeah.
So there's no longer of he's growing. He'll
learned.
be
Like at this point, he's a legitimate veteran in the game. He's been in it 6 years now. So.
Look, so many quarterbacks, their career ends after 10 years.
Yeah.
And
that's
you have a few that go 20, but
Yeah.
you have so many of the greats who had 10, 11-year careers. So with Dak being in his 5th year.
And that's them being a backup for the first 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. So you got Dak being 5 years in. You no longer have room to say, well, next year he'll be good or the year after he'll be good. But
because, I mean, that was the thing that we heard so much of it. Like, the first year is like, well, it is his rookie year. He's never played at this level.
Sophomore slump.
So then there's the sophomore year. And then the 3rd and 4th year, we're starting like, well, it's negotiation time for his contract, and then he got hurt. So there's always an excuse. But at this point, we're not going to accept excuses. Like, it's going to be either you're going to put up or you're going to shut up at this point.
You're going to show that you're competitive, that you can lead,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. So, we went a little bit over today.
Yeah.
But you know what? We had a lot of stuff to talk about. So, next week, we'll see when we get this recorded.
You should hear this Saturday at the latest, but, yeah, it'll be up tomorrow for sure. I don't know if it'll be up tonight, but we'll get it up. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. If you guys want to follow me on any of my social medias, at Sleep-E-J, SLEEP_E_J. At me on Twitter, at me on Instagram. You guys want to talk about anything we talked about, please, if you listen to us on any of the platforms, please rate, tell people about us. That's the only way we're going to grow this podcast and everything like that.
Leave comments, ask questions. We'll be happy to address them at next week's episode. Now, also, if you are easily offended, you probably don't want to go to my Twitter account because I say stuff. But also, if you want to troll me, you can try, but you ain't gonna get under my skin. So,
but until next time, guys, take it easy, enjoy your sports, and I'm out.
Deuces.